Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I'm back with a convention report of sorts from Terrificon, which I attended back at the end of July. Now, my wife and I went on a big vacation, 2-week vacation where we drove down to Ocean City, Maryland, and along the way, we went to Terrificon, and I also hit up 6 different comic stores. So later on, there'll be more videos where I visit those comic stores. That's one comic store in Delaware, 2 comic stores in New Jersey, and 3 comic stores on Long Island that I went to. But before any of those, we went to Terrificon, which is one of the best conventions in the area. It might be my favorite convention, big convention, that is, in New England, because it's not really a pop culture convention. Yes, they did have some wrestlers and a few stars, but it's very heavy on the comics. And so if you're like me and you love to meet the creators and get signatures and autographs from all the great creators that you loved, Terrificon is the best place in New England to do that. I've met a lot of creators there that I've never seen at any other conventions in New England, and so I was really excited to go this time. The experience was a bit of a mixed bag. I'll say right up front that we got there at 5:30 in the afternoon, and the show was closing at 8. So we had 2.5 hours. I spent almost all that time trying to get signatures, which meant that I had very little time to actually look at back issues. I did have just a handful of dollar bin books that I bought. I'll show you those at the end of the video. But most of my time was taken up in line and spending money to get books signed. As a result, I completely forgot to actually record any video inside the convention. I only remembered as we were leaving, so I got like 10 seconds of us walking out of the convention, which takes place at the Mohegan Sun Casino, Resort Casino in Connecticut. Again, a little bit of a mixed bag. So I spent a ton of money on signatures. Now I'm old enough, of course, to remember, as many of you are, it used to be that you could get all the signatures for free. That's no longer the case. A lot of that has to do with CGC monetizing with their signature series and creators wanting to, get a cut when people are, they used to bring things in and get them signed for free, and then they'd sell them these autographs. So naturally, the creators want to get paid for that. And honestly, I don't have a problem with it because creators in comics get paid so little these days that it's hard to begrudge $5 or $10 or whatever for an autograph as a thank you. So I spent a lot of money on these. I'll talk about that when I show them. The other thing is there was a number of creators that I didn't get to see either because they weren't there for some reason, or they left before I got in line, or in one case, Chris Claremont. It was kind of a mess. So basically, I've met Chris Claremont before. I'm not a huge fan, but I do like some of his work. So I've met him before. I've got his signature before. Now, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, has recently gotten back into comics. He read comics when he was a kid back in the 90s, and he's just gotten back into comics. And so his birthday's coming up, and I had this idea. When I looked at the list of creators, I thought, oh, Chris Claremont and Art Adams are both going to be there, and he's a big X-Men guy. So I thought, this is perfect. I know just what to get them. And so I bought, before we went to the show, I bought New Mutants special number 1 from 1985, and X-Men Annual 9, which is a 2-parter, both written by Chris Claremont and drawn entirely by Art Adams. And then I also got Classic X-Men number 1, which has the classic cover by Art Adams with the whole X-Men team. And then the interior is partially a reprint of Giant Size X-Men number 1, and then partially new material from Chris Claremont that was sort of adding new stuff to that story, right? So I thought, okay, we're going to get these books. We're going to get them all signed by Chris Claremont. We'll get them all signed by Art Adams as well. That was the plan. As I mentioned, we got there late in the day. We go to get in line for Chris Claremont, and the guy in front of us has a sign that they gave him saying last in line. We were literally one person too late. And it was super disappointing because, planned way ahead for this. I bought all these comics for Chris Claremont to sign as a birthday present. So we talked to like the handler, and he said, well, if you want to wait, you can sort of wait around here, not in line, but off to the side. And if it goes fast enough, you might be able to get in. And we waited a little bit, and it was just like, we had very limited time. We didn't want to spend all of it in the Chris Claremont line, hoping to get signatures. So ultimately, we decided to go ahead and just get the other signatures. What was more frustrating is about a half hour later, we looked over and the line was still there, but the guy that had been last in line, there were 4 people behind him, and now the last in line sign was the guy at the end. So they basically changed the rules after we were there. If they had told us, yeah, you can get in line, you're the new end of the line, we would have waited in line. But because they said, no, there's no guarantee you're going to get any signatures. You can wait for a chance at maybe a signature, but that guy's still the end of the line. We didn't want to spend our whole time there for nothing. So it was really frustrating that they ended up changing their minds and letting other people get in the line officially to get their stuff signed. So that was really irritating, particularly since it was a birthday present. But I did get those books signed by Art Adams. Let me talk a little bit about the people who I didn't get signatures from. So some books that I brought with me to get signed. Joe Jusko, there was a table for him there, but we were there. It was a 3-day show. We were there the first day. He wasn't there. So there was a table. Maybe he was only there Saturday, Sunday. I don't know. Inexplicably could not find Al Milgrom anywhere. So that was frustrating. Didn't see him on the map. Didn't see a table for him. No idea where he was. He's listed on the website. It didn't say he canceled. And he wasn't the only one. Walt Simonson, I've met him before, and I have some signatures on some Thor books, but I really wanted him to sign this Young Love cover that he did. No sign of him anywhere. Joe Duffy, I had brought the one issue of Star Wars for my collection, which is pure nostalgia because I had this issue when I was a kid. So I wanted her to sign it. Couldn't find her either. And then the other disappointment that I had was Ron Garney. Now, I've been to 2 shows before this where Ron Garney was supposed to be there, and then I get to the show and he's not there because he canceled at the last minute. Well, he was there this time. I saw him at the table, but I got stuck waiting for someone else, which I'll talk about in a minute. And when I finally got that signature and went over, Ron Garney had left early for the day. So I still have these 3 issues of Captain America. They were all signed by Mark Waid, and I still haven't actually gotten them signed by Ron Garney. It's been years. Again, every time I've gone to a show where he was supposed to be there, he wasn't there. And the one time he was finally there, he left before I could see him. So that was frustrating. But I did get that was all the frustrations out of the way. But there's still a bunch of really great creators that I did get signatures from. So let's start at the top. Art Adams. Now, I've had Art Adams sign stuff for me before, but this is a little bit different. For the Dollar Bin Trading Challenge, I've put in a new rule. I'll be talking about this more when I do the video for the next round. Previously, I was only allowed to spend money for Dollar Bin books, either $1 for the book. The only other money was for shipping or for CGC, but I'm changing that rule to add in signatures. Now, I think this is fair enough because some people don't like the signatures, so it's not necessarily making the books more desirable. It'll make it more desirable for some people and less for others. And also, while it increases the value of the book, the cost of the signature is so much that it's going to be a wash at best. So I've got this long shot number 1 that I got out of a Dollar Bin. It's got a bit of a blunted corner, so we're going to call it a 6.5. But looks real nice, and now it has an Art Adams signature right there. So this will be in the next round of the Dollar Bin Trading Challenge. And I did get those books signed for my brother-in-law, so that was exciting. He was very excited to see those, and there's more to that story in a minute. here's something super exciting for me is and a kind of a surreal experience is that I had an artist sign a comic that I published. Now, you may remember that when I did the Crime Buster 80th anniversary special, a friend of mine had some original, never before published art by the legendary George Tuska. I had this inked by Andrew Peepoy, who I know from Archie Comics, but who has also been an inker on Batman. And he was at the convention, so I had him sign a copy of the artist edition that he did the inking on. So it was signed to me, to Scott, Andrew Peepoy. So I was excited to get that. I got to talk to him a little bit. And it was just a really weird experience to have a creator autograph a comic that I made. You know, that is very strange, but it was really cool. So that was great. I do have a couple more stories of things that are slightly frustrating. Mixed bag experience. First is Heartthrobs 102. It's the first issue of the Three Girls, Their Lives, Their Loves. Now, I had this signed by Barbara Friedlander, who is the writer. I've mentioned her before. I've had her sign stuff in the past. I first met her at Terrificon in 2018, so that was 5 years ago. At the time, I think it was the first show that she had done, and it was just great to meet someone that was in romance comics. And I've seen her a couple other shows, and somewhere along the way, she decided to sort of cash in on this stuff. Most of these people had big signs saying how much the signatures were. I did not, and there may have been a sign at Barbara Freelander's table. I didn't see it. I've dug this out, and I was like, I was hoping you could sign this, and she's like, sure. So I'm handing her the book, and she's like, it's $20 for the signature, and I was like, woo, like Ayuga, $20, like that. I mean, that's a lot for a signature from anybody, but that's like, I mean, I paid less than that for Neil Adams. You know what I mean? So like, it was a lot, but I felt it would be really like it put me in a weird situation where I didn't want to pull the book back. You know what I mean? If I had seen a sign saying $20 on it, I would have just silently passed by the table entirely, because I've already had stuff signed by her. But I already had the book out. I had already told her I wanted her to sign it, and it felt like it would be really rude. So I don't know. I spent the $20. It's cool to have it signed, but I don't know. It was a lot, and I won't be getting anything else signed from her, I don't think. But I mean, it's great that she's there, and I love it. The other kind of frustrating experience I had was with Tony Harris. Let me show you the books. Starman #0, first appearance of Jack Knight, and Starman #7. I love this cover. I mean, the work by Tony Harris in this series is great. Both of these are also signed by Wade Von Grawbadger, who is also at the show just a couple tables away. Let's see, signature is up here. So now I just need to meet James Robinson. I'll get the whole creative team on these books. So that was awesome. The frustrating thing is, there was one guy that had just bought something from him that was getting the print signed, and so I paid to get the signatures, and then I had to wait for him to finish with this other guy, and he was just talking about all this, like he was just going on and on about the printing process and stuff like that, and I had to wait over 20 minutes while he was having this conversation. I just wanted to get the signatures. I was on a clock, and this is why I missed Ron Garney, because by the time I got done, eventually I finally was just like, his wife was there handling the booth, and she was very apologetic. And finally I was like, can I just leave these for him to sign and I'll come back later? And so then he signed them finally, but it's kind of frustrating. I've had that experience before with different creators. Howard Chaykin, Michael Golden, slightly different Mark Teixeira, because he was drawing free remarks on books, and there was a guy that had a pile of 40 books, and I had to wait while he drew a picture on all 40 covers. But I've had this happen before where some of these people are just chatterboxes, and they don't really seem to notice what's going on, or and so you just end up just wasting a huge amount of time, because they don't keep things moving, and it gets frustrating. Paul Gulacy was very similar when I got his signature, but I was happy to get the signatures, but it did mean that I missed Ron Garney, and it took a lot of time out. A couple more people though that were really great experiences. Now I've met Amanda Connor before, but this time I had her sign some Barbies. She signed them in a metallic pink with a metallic pink marker, which is actually really hard to see on some of the covers. So I got this swimsuit cover. You can see the signature here. This is a swipe of Betty number 8. Here's another really cool Amanda Connor cover. Can you see the signature? It's here on the trunk of the elephant. Her signature is easier to see on the other covers I had her sign. So these are $5 each. I brought a big pile of Barbies. Her signatures were only $5. So I got multiple Barbie Fashion 26, and then really cool cover and a hard to find issue 60, one of the last issues, with the famous Barbie's pink Corvette here, and here the signature is here. She's having the ticker tape parade. So that was really cool. As you guys know, I've been collecting Barbie for quite a while. I like to bring things that I collect, to the people that I'm getting autographs from, and that usually results in them being surprised at what I'm asking them to sign, because my tastes are very different from most people. But in this case, because of the movie, she said she's been signing a lot of Barbie stuff at the show. And then finally, here's the person I was so excited to meet. I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with him, other than to just tell him how important the comics were to me. But one of the very first comics I ever got was this. Is Warlord 91, written by Dan Jurgens. So I got his signature here. My first issue of Warlord was 90, and that was one of the first comics I ever got. So this is, and then the next issue they had a retelling of his origin. So this is like burned into my mind. So I was very excited for that. And then this is the culmination of a 25-year, quarter of a century quest. I finally met Dan Jurgens to get him his signature on these books. Green Arrow 27 and 28. You can see I had them signed by Dick Giordano at a convention in Orlando in 1998, 25 years ago. Of course, he passed away, I think, in 2001. I have Mike Grell, of course, signed there a number of years ago, and I've just been waiting to meet Dan Jurgens. I love the fact that Dan Jurgens came on board for just this 2-part Warlord crossover, guest appearance, because you have like the creative teams, the most famous people that are associated with Warlord working together on the book. And then here again, I have all 3 signatures on both issues. So I was really excited to finally, after 25 years, finish that. It's just great to have that. They really pop on this cover because Dick Giordano signed in the gold ink here. Less so on this one because the signature's here, but this one in particular just looks so cool with all the signatures. So that's great. So that was awesome. By the time we did all that, I had very little time left to look at back issues. I ran around, I did find some romance stuff, but nothing that I needed or in my price range. Didn't really find much in the way of Archie stuff. But I did go dollar bin diving, and I got several books. Now, some of them are not here, because what I found in really good set of dollar bins from this one dealer was a run of classic X-Men. Unfortunately, he was missing a couple, or else I would have bought more. But since I already had the issue 1 signed by Art Adams, I was really excited to find in the dollar bins classic X-Men 2, 3, 4, and 5. So when we gave the comics to him for his birthday, and he got all of those, so he could see basically the beginning of the new X-Men run being reprinted there. So that was exciting. Now, the same dealer, there was and something that I immediately regretted not buying. You know, I'm always on the lookout for things in the dollar bins for my trading challenge. And there's a couple books that I should have gotten, but I didn't. And those were low grade, which is why I passed on them, but I should have got them anyway. Beat up copies of Amazing Spider-Man 161 and 162, which have everything going for them. Not only are they, you know, Bronze Age Spider-Man issues, Amazing Spider-Man issues, which is always a good thing. They got an early Nightcrawler appearance. They got an early Punisher appearance. And my understanding is they've also got the first appearance of the villain Jigsaw in them. And so, like, they've really, for $1 each, I should have got them. It would have been a perfect thing, pair the two of them together in the dollar bin trading challenge. But I blew it. I didn't get them. Instead, I got a few other things that are essentially not worth anything, but, you know, we'll start with this one because I've got a story. It's Iron Man 212 with the 25th anniversary cover. Now, the classic X-Men 3 that I found also had the 25th anniversary cover, but I gave that away. My thought when I got this was, you know, people like these covers, that people collect this, so maybe I can start putting these together. If I find a few more out of dollar bins down the road, I could put a bundle of these for the trading challenge. But actually what happened is I started getting really nostalgic about this because, you know, these books came out in July and August of 1986, which is a absolutely pivotal moment from, like, in time for me. The summer of 1986 is the summer that, like, everything changed for me. And I was 13, and I went on a 5-week cross-country road trip with my brother and my aunt and my grandmother. We drove around the whole country for 5 weeks in a minivan, and just a lot of things happened that summer. It was sort of like really important, and so I have a lot of nostalgia for this. And basically what ended up happening was I started thinking, well, maybe I should collect these. This is why they're popular. So I probably will end up keeping this because, as we'll see when I get to the videos from the comic shops that I visited on the trip, I did end up buying a few more of the frame covers for myself. Now, I already have a few in my collection. I've got Avengers, I've got Captain America. I have a gift from one of you wonderful viewers that gave me the Thor frame cover. And somewhere I'd already bought out of a dollar bin the New Mutants 45 with the frame cover. So I have a few of them already. So I think it's going to be easy to get all of the mainstream Marvel books. And none of them are particularly expensive, except for, you know, X-Men 211 is a little bit more than the others. But it's the ones from Star Comics. That's where the challenge comes in. So it's going to be fun. So I bought this with the intention of socking away for the dollar bin challenge, but ultimately I'm going to end up keeping it for myself. But I did buy a couple other books that are not yet ready for the dollar bin trading challenge, but maybe down the road, depending on how things go. This is actually a pretty solid mid-grade Chamber of Chills number 11 that I got for $1. I mean, you can't beat it, right? So that's really cool. I'm sure I'll end up giving that away or putting the trading challenge. And then I got a few things that are spec. When you're, you know, pure speculation, maybe down the road. I have a couple of these already, but Night Mask number 1 is a nice copy of Night Mask number 1. Now, most of the universe books I'm not very high on, and I pass over them, but Night Mask is a character that I think he's got a cool, kind of cool name. He's got a cool look. He's got a cool power set. Importantly, he's also been brought over into the Marvel Universe and was in the Avengers for a while. So this is a character that I think has some potential to pop at some point. I have 2 or 3 other copies of this that I've already bought out of dollar bins in the past, but this will be socked away with those just in case. This is all from the same dealer. A really nice copy of Spitfire and the Troubleshooters #4. Now, this is the reason I got this is because it's an early Todd McFarlane. No, didn't do the cover. Interiors by Todd McFarlane. So it's one of his first books at Marvel. Cover date is a January 1987. So it came out in 86. So very early for Todd McFarlane, before Amazing Spider-Man. And I have some dollar bin McFarlane books that I've been putting together. Got a couple of his Marvel Tales covers and a couple other covers that he did. So this is going to go in with those. So at some point there'll be a lot of McFarlane books once I have a few more in the dollar bin challenge. And then finally, this is not worth as much as I was hoping. It's like a $5 to $8 book right now, but it has some potential. I keep thinking that something's going to happen with Power Pack at some point because it just makes sense for them to be, for Marvel and for Disney to do something with them since they're a kid-focused book. This is the last issue, and you know how these last issues have the smaller print runs and are usually hard to find. So this is a really nice copy of the last issue of Power Pack. So for $1, I thought it's a good gamble because there's really no downside. So that's going to go in my short box of dollar bin books. And at some point down the road, hopefully something happens with Power Pack and this one will pop. So that was basically my convention experience. We're only there 2.5 hours. I had a bit of a frustrating experience with a lot of the autographs, but I did get to meet Dan Jurgens finally. I got Amanda Connor to sign a bunch of Barbies. I got some other stuff. We got Art Adams' signature on these books for my brother-in-law, and I got some cool stuff out of the dollar bins. So it was a good time was had by all. It's a great convention. I wish we had more time because I definitely would have bought some. I should have bought those Amazing Spider-Mans, but I would have loved to have more time to go dollar bin diving at the show. I just didn't. But good time was had by all. So let me know what you think down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.